in the last couple months, we've really gotten an insight into what January 6th and this coup attempt by former President Trump to try and keep himself in power was really all about. And
now, Will, I'm sorry. You used the word coup. So I know you're going to have some receipts for that, but please, I didn't mean to interrupt, but that certainly caught my attention to talk about just how nefarious this effort was, because I think most of us are just thinking that it was just a bunch of guys that got together, were upset about the election, and you're speaking about it being a lot deeper. So, Will, please proceed, my brother.
Yes, I mean, absolutely. I mean, what happened, thank you for that. I mean, what happened on January 6th was really the culmination of weeks of, conversations among people on the right wing and in their various, chat rooms and online. And, you had several organized groups that were deeply involved in this. One is the Proud Boys, which is kind of a, thuggish organization of young white people. And the other is the Oath Keepers, which is probably a little bit more alarming. They actually formed, not coincidentally, when President Obama was elected in 2008. And it's largely a collection of people who have some kind of either military or law enforcement ties, ex-military, some active duty military, active duty cops and police officers, and they couch all this in the language of the oath keeping part is that, that they took an oath to defend the Constitution. But, in reality, this has largely been a vehicle for, enforcing white supremacy. And the leader of the Oath Keepers is a very interesting character. Is a guy named Stuart Rhodes, who he's a former paratrooper, and he did go to Yale Law School, and he worked for the kind of radical right-wing Congressman Ron Paul for a couple of years. And since January 6th, we've learned that Stuart Rhodes and his top lieutenants were very involved on January 6th, that they actually went to D.C. and checked into hotel rooms on the outskirts of the city with what they call these rapid response teams. And here's the important thing I want to make this clear.
Will, hold on one second before you go further.
Yeah.
You said top lieutenants. So you're talking as though there is a military type structure with these guys in their attempt of what do you mean top lieutenants? Is that what you're calling them, or is that what they refer to themselves as?
Well, lieutenants isn't their formal term, but
okay.
Clearly it's I guess you'd call it a cadre, or a group that
they have structure.
They have structure.
They're regimented.
And
they have a hierarchy,
and they have more members than people realize.
Really?
And so yeah, and I think what drives this home actually is if you've watched any of the videos from January 6th, there's this dramatic moment where right in the middle of the chaos, you see this group of about a dozen men who were all, with backpacks and helmets and are very well equipped. And they're marching up the steps in a formation. It's actually called a stack. There's a name for it. And these people were members of the Oath Keepers, and these people were part of a detachment that was actually at the Capitol. But I think what's important to understand, and this gets to why, I refer to January 6th as a coup, is I think what people need to understand is that there was an expectation. There were a couple of expectations that didn't quite pan out about that day. But one is the planners of January 6th expected that people on the left, the people that they call Antifa, although I don't know if that's really the proper word, but they thought that anti-Trump people were going to show up as counter-protesters that day. And they expected they expected there to be violence because of that. And that violence, had it occurred, and of course it did not occur, but had it occurred, it would have given President Trump an excuse to do what his advisors were urging him to do, which is invoke the Insurrection Act, declare a national emergency. And this is why there's so much conversation about what the National Guard did or didn't do that day, because there was a scenario where Trump could have basically called out the National Guard, but on his side. There's a lot of talk about, well, why didn't the National Guard stop the pro-Trump people, the people storming the Capitol? But I think in the Trump fantasy world, there was a scenario where the National Guard would be called out against Antifa or leftists, They would secure the Capitol, and in securing the Capitol, what that would do is that would prevent the certification of President Biden's election, which was the ultimate goal.
I got it. And Will, so let me go back to the insurrection of January 6th.
Sure.
Obviously, with the amount of research and digging in that you have done, it is clear of the nefarious attempts of those insurrectionists to threaten democracy. What would be a just punishment or a resolution to the investigation into January 6th from your perspective?
That's a great question because, January 6th, from what we've learned, clearly it was a conspiracy. And, if you're going to prosecute a conspiracy, it's not worth it unless you really go after the people at the top. And that does, of course, mean Donald Trump, but it also means the people around Donald Trump, Mike Flynn, Rudy Giuliani, Steve Bannon. I mean, those are three prominent names, and there's other people. These people who set up a war room at the Willard Hotel in the heart of D.C. And were monitoring the protests and were communicating with Donald Trump back at the White House. These people, I think the case has already been made based just on what we know so far, and we haven't even had public hearings from the House January 6th committee yet. Those are coming, but I think the case is already out there that there was an organized effort to disrupt the workings of Congress on January 6th, to disrupt one of the most important functions of American democracy, which is the peaceful transfer of power, the certification of an election in which the party in the White House lost and the opposing party won. So there was a very real attempt to disrupt this, which is a crime. And the people at high levels who planned this crime were part of a criminal conspiracy. So that's on the Justice Department and Merrick Garland.